Okay, let's move on to who we think is going to get murdered next week. Alan came and told them that it's going to be in front of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought them out to this eerie coffin. And someone's going to get announced and have to get into the coffin. That's crazy.
I'm ready to see Eric's acting skills.
Oh,
I want to
gosh.
see if he can pull it off.
They were all like huddled together, all nervous.
I
I'm like,
know. He's going to give it his all. I honestly think they have two solid options. They can either murder Mora, but then they won't have her backing Rob.
And I feel like she really helps him.
She really does help him, but it might make people think, oh, Rob would never murder Mora. So it could take the heat off of Rob completely, but then I think it would just put it on Eric.
She's never said Eric's name either, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're getting down to so few people that it's like, yeah, where does it turn?
It's true. So Eric, I think, would be their next guess if Mora gets murdered. And then there's also Mark.
Mm-hmm. I also think Mark is an interesting one because it feels like they maybe should murder him because, to me, he's the person that could ruin this all for Rob if he actually figures it out. But also, he is Rob's last connection to getting Eric out if Rob feels like he needs Eric as a scapegoat, because Mark is the only one that knows the Kristen thing. So if Rob gets scared enough and feels like he might need to throw Eric under the bus to make it to the end, then he should keep Mark there, because when he starts doing that, he has Mark to be like, hey, actually, should we look at Eric because the Kristen murder was crazy? Rob was the only one there for the Mark, Kristen, Rob conversation, but Kristen did show at least a little suspicion to Eric in that conversation in the kitchen where she kind of confronted him for being so quiet at the round table. So if Rob really wanted to, I think he could be like, I didn't tell Eric anything, but he seemed to think that he had that Kristen was upset with him.
She did. That's a good point.
Like, he could say, Eric came to me and so Kristen's mad at me. You know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah, I think that will be another instance of like in your face murder, but who knows? These faithfuls aren't picking up on any of this. So it's just so hard to even begin to fathom what choice they're going to make, because
Totally.
there's so many little breadcrumbs, and I can see why they're following some, because when you don't know which ones are correct, like all clues could lead to nothing.
Lead anywhere or nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I also feel like this season has been so good and so interesting to me, but I feel like this is the first episode where I got really frustrated with the faithfuls in like a fun, I love to watch this and be frustrated way. But before, it felt like, oh my gosh, the traitor gameplay is really great from Rob. Like, that's really exciting to see. And then this episode, it felt like, okay, there are things right in front of you. Now it's not just he's playing so well you can't see it. Like, he has made enough fumbles for you to see it, and you still aren't.
You know what? It's true. And that final conversation that he had with Mark, when Mark was like,
Laying
I
on the
don't
pool
think,
table.
yes, bros. He was like, I don't think it's Tara, but we should still vote for Tara. Is that not suspicious? Because if you don't think it's Tara, why do you want to vote for her?
I also felt like in a similar vein, the conversation that Rob had with Mora, I think before the banishment, I really thought that a light bulb was going on in her head.
They framed it that way to make it be like, oh my gosh, what did I just realize?
Because he said a similar thing in that one where he said, like, we need to get Natalie out and then we need to get Johnny and Tara. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, it feels like you have a singular mission. You're not saying they're traitors. You're just saying we need to get them out.
And isn't that something, I feel like someone said that to Colton earlier in the season when he was like, we get this person out, then this person, and then I forget who it was, but someone said that's very like traitor gameplay.
Why do you have an agenda?
Exactly. Like you have a list.
Totally. But I do think one thing he could use to excuse that is that we are so close to the end. And now with the way the ending of this game goes, you do kind of get to the point where you're like, it's not that big a deal if we lose faithfuls as long as there's not a traitor still standing.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, if there's less people, you split less money.
Right.
Or if there's less people, you split more money.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, that makes sense that Rob and Mora are going to be a team because they want to split the money.
And if they really, she thinks he's still a faithful and, is going to help her get to the end and split the money with him.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I could see that point of view.
I found the Mark and Rob laying on the pool table conversation so interesting and really funny that we see that scene starting with Mark just laying alone on the pool table. I'm like, that man's going through it.
So
He does not know what to
sad.
believe. He's so shocked about Natalie not being a traitor. I think his brain is right there, and similar to Mora's, he like doesn't want to go down the route of what if it's Rob, and that's part of why he's so distraught, because he's like, if it's not Natalie, like maybe I have to rethink everything that I've thought before. And I'm hoping that will edge him more towards Eric, but he brought up Eric to Rob in that pool table conversation, and once again Rob was able to be like, no, let's look at Tara.
Yes, but then Johnny is correct. Johnny brought up that he thinks it's Eric and Rob.
Yes, but only to the confessional. Like, bring it to the castle, Johnny. Bring it to the
Yes,
castle.
because that right there, if they listen to Johnny, it's game over. Faithful, the faithfuls win.
Yeah. But also, they've been so suspect of Johnny, so who knows if they'll listen to him.
They change every week. It's hard to say. Like, it really just depends on like what clues they find day to day.
Yeah.
There really is no like, okay, well, we didn't get that person out last week, so we're gonna do it this week. It really just changes depending on what happens.
I didn't think last week that Johnny and Tara's big "we're besties" thing was gonna really help them that much.
I didn't either.
But
I didn't understand
it did.
that.
They're not even, other than Natalie being suspicious of Tara because of everything that happened in this episode, they really moved away from Tara and Johnny too.
They did. I think it's because they don't believe that they would come out and say that if they were both traitors.
Totally.
And they wouldn't.
And they wouldn't. But one of them still could be.
One of them still could be, but I guess they're trusting the fact that they know each other and they're tell so well.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually like a good strategic move.
I do too. I agree. And I feel like it works for them specifically.
It does.
Maybe if it were Maura and Rob saying that, it wouldn't work because they are people who both feel like they could keep a secret. Where I don't feel like Tara could, and especially not from her best friend.
And if I was as close to someone as Tara and Johnny have led us to believe they are, I feel like I would not be able to lie that well to them. I would be like, yes, I'm a faithful.
I am a faithful. Well, you have to watch Traitors Celebrity UK because Alan Carr basically does that, and people just believe him anyway.
Do they really?
He giggles. He can't look someone in the eye. They say, look me in the eye and say you're faithful. And he giggles.
Okay, see, but I will giggle too. Whenever somebody asks me that, I giggle too because I just think it's funny that you're asking me. It's not because I'm lying. It's just the
It was
pressure.
so funny. He literally giggled, and then they were like, oh, Alan's so funny. It was so impressive. I feel like Rob has got that kind of mist over people in this game, too.
He does. It's true. Okay, we are down to the wire. We are going into episode 11. This is it. What's your final prediction?
Well, I really don't want Mark to get murdered, but I feel like it might be Mark. I also, not to put my detective hat on and go way too far in, but I swear it looked like Alan was about to say an M name. And it feels like Mark or Maura are the ones that make sense anyway, so I feel like it's going to be one of them, even though I don't want that.
No, I completely agree. I think it's going to be Mark or Maura. I'm leaning slightly more towards Maura because of that conversation earlier during the challenge, the mission, when they were like, oh, if Maura gets a shield, that ruins our plan.
Totally.
So I'm leaning towards her. But I don't know.
I think I'm leaning towards Mark just because I feel like he's the one who could figure it out, but I don't know if he will, and I feel like Rob does have full confidence that he can keep swaying him. So you're right, Maura might be the way to exonerate himself because they are so close. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, and then not only will we find out who gets murdered, we're going to find out who wins.
Oh, yeah, that's true, because it's the finale.
I'm so excited. I don't even know. I know who you're rooting for, right?
What? No. That could be, I'm rooting for the faithfuls, totally.
And this is why you can't go on the game, I don't believe you. You're rooting for Rob to win.
I am rooting for Rob to win. And I also just love Eric. He's just so, like...
If Rob somehow gets banished and Eric's left on his own to go the Fire of Truth, to be honest, I kind of want to see that.
That would be so funny if he rolled in at the last minute, like Rob got all the strategics done for him, and then Eric takes home the entire prize.
Also, I don't know how he would hold it together in the Fire of Truth, but I want to see it.
I want to see it too. That would actually be really satisfying.
I think what's good about this season is it's gonna be really satisfying if Rob and Eric win together or if just Rob wins. It will also oddly be satisfying if Eric somehow wins because how alone. But also, it'll be so satisfying if the Faithfuls get it together because they just have not. They've been so blinded that I think it would also be an interesting ending as long as they don't fall ass backwards into it. But if they actually like get it together and figure it out, that'd be fun to watch too.
It's true, because even if Rob and Eric do go out, the Traitors played a good game. They made it all the way to the finale.
And Rob went undetected for so long. The fact that this is the penultimate episode before the winner's chosen, and it's the first time Rob is like really coming up other than Candace saying his name is crazy.
It is. It's impressive.
Yeah, and Eric came up like his first night being a traitor, and they were able to push it off so quickly, and that's also impressive.
All right, guys, what are your predictions? Who do you think is going to get murdered next episode? Let us know in the comments section down below.
And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, or follow our channel so you can catch up with us next week and see the reunion. I've been Molly. You can find me at meholdingcoffee on Instagram and TikTok.
I'm Rachel. You can find me at RachFirch on Instagram and TikTok, and we will see you guys next week.
So excited.